Miss South Africa 2024 has concluded, and I was delighted and surprised in the best ways possible. But let's begin by talking about the least surprising thing of all, which is that the stream that we paid for, by the way, did not work for the first 20 minutes of the pageant. Like, at first there was no video, no sound at all. It just straight up didn't work. Then the sound started working, but there was no video. And then around the 20-minute mark, we got the actual stream. So needless to say that I missed the entirety of the opening number, as well as Natasha making her little debut on the Miss South Africa 2024 stage. But from what I heard, opening number was absolutely fantastic. So I'm very happy for you guys who had access to SABC to be watching the opening number from heaven, as some of you described it. The girls did look very beautiful in their colorful outfits that I saw later on. So the stream started working around the time when they were introducing the judges. And you know what, I noticed this beforehand in the run-up to Miss South Africa, but it became especially apparent during the time where they were introducing the judges. Notice how there is no Miss Universe present at Miss South Africa this year. Now, for some of you guys, you may not have come to expect Miss Universe, but for us die-hard pageant viewers, we know that Miss Universe has been present at Miss South Africa for the past 6 editions. Ever since 2018, when Demi Lee came to Miss South Africa, obviously because she was Miss South Africa, but since Demi in 2018, every single edition of Miss South Africa had a Miss Universe present. So I wonder what happened. Why is Shanice Palacios of Nicaragua, the first Miss Universe in 6 years, not to attend Miss South Africa? Now, obviously, I think that Miss Universe does charge a fee in order to have Miss Universe attend different pageants. So maybe they raised it. Miss South Africa perhaps felt like it was too much. Who knows? But all I know is that I am so glad, actually, low-key, that I didn't attend Miss South Africa in person this year, because one of the major factors that drove me to want to attend Miss South Africa in person this year was the fact that I love Shanice Palacios and that I was looking forward to seeing her. But the fact that she wasn't there would have annoyed me so much if I were to be there in person this year, and you know, she wasn't. So with Miss Universe not actually attending, and also there being absolutely no after party at Miss South Africa this year, I don't know, I feel like Miss South Africa this year felt a little bit different. And so I'm not really that mad about not going. I was sort of annoyed that I wasn't there in person when I was struggling for 20 minutes to get the stream to work, but other than that, it's not really that much of an issue for me that I wasn't there. For the first time, Miss South Africa also has a sign language interpreter, which, fair enough, you know, they also had a deaf contestant this year, as we know. So I think it's so good that the South Africa is including more, you know, inclusive methods like this in order to include more people. For the swimsuit round, guys, Miss South Africa really came out with some great swimsuits. I say came out as if they designed them, but they selected great swimsuits for our ladies to walk in. I did love that the swimsuits were sort of flamboyant. You know what I always say, these women aren't actually going swimming, okay? There is no pool at the end of the stage which they are going to be having to swan dive into or make a bommy after their walk. No, these, just put them in some heels, put them in some glamorous looking swim-ish, suit-ish attire, and we'll be happy. Unfortunately, I was not happy with the performances that we saw. Okay, we know our South African girlies are speakers, okay? Many of the women who ended up on that final stage, our top 10, they aren't great performance, especially when it comes to swim, because I saw a lot of bended knees, a lot of ladies looking down as they were awkwardly descending the stairs, a lot of ladies not really being very interactive, and that's just one complaint that I have. There were, however, some ladies who did moderately well when it came to swimsuit. What was interesting also is that Layla was wearing more of a conservative swimsuit. We know that Layla is of Lebanese descent, and she also is a sort of, what do you call it? She is a fashion designer, but for modest clothing. So I do feel like it's a good thing that she was respected in that way, so that she could wear something that she was comfortable wearing. Onalenna, to me, had one of the better swimsuit performances. She was a bit more engaging with everybody. Taahira was great in swimsuit. Nompumelelo also had great vibes when it came to swimsuits. But like I said, most of these performances were just not performances. You know, they felt like the sort of low effort walking that we would have seen in the 80s, and not really like a modern swimsuit performance that we love. Bonang, we just have to talk about Bonang's fashion, because okay, for most of the pageant it was sort of not as flamboyant, but this headpiece was really something. She's just standing there pretending like she's not wearing this huge thing on her head. It's just, I love Bonang. So we even had a poet performing a poem for, I don't even know what segment this was. Honestly, at some points it felt like I was watching a pagan witchcraft ritual. It's like he fell in love with me without being able to explain why, but this was me the previous night under the full moon at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what this was supposed to be, but we had a poet, honestly, which actually didn't help with the feeling that it was literal witchcraft.
Through highest functioning depression, how she is crowned through...
And you know, it was sort of giving Maya Angelou at points, but Maya Angelou, it wasn't, okay? The pacing and the delivery sometimes was off. It felt a bit angry. It felt a bit rushed at times. So it was just not my cup of tea, is what I'm basically trying to say. So we headed into top 7 next, which I felt was strange because I really feel like we could have seen all 10 in gown if we wanted to, if we really tried. But then later on, when the top 5 actually did their gown, I felt like they all looked so angelic, but we'll get to that later. But when it came to top 7, I was a bit perplexed as to why 7? Why 7? Why not just have all 10 of them do the mission statements? Anyway, so starting with the first woman who went into the top 7, my Wi-Fi sabotaged me as per usual, but it ended up being Taahira, Onalenna, Kirsten, Mia, Ontshiametse, Layla, and Nompumelelo. So overall, 5 out of 7 of my predicted top 7 got in. And yes, I did rank the women from literal number 10 to number 1 in my prediction this year. I was so brave, knowing that I wasn't going to be there in person to catch anyone's family's hands. And overall, I was happy with the top 7 that we ended up getting. All of my major faves went through, so I had no complaints. And you know what I really did love and appreciate throughout this edition is Natasha's connection with everybody. She was so natural, so authentic. I love that for her. You can really tell how much she's grown since 2020. And also, they showed a blooper reel. They showed some bloopers of crown chasers, and honestly, if I'm gonna be completely honest, the bloopers were 10 times more entertaining than crown chasers was this season. So Miss South Africa added this segment where the girls had to give mission statements, where they basically had to present their pitch as Miss South Africa. I love the outfits that they put them in. It was like giving business Barbie, you know what I mean? Onalenna obviously talked about gender-based violence, which if you watch the entirety of Crown Chasers and the top 30 interviews and things like that, basically if you have been an avid watcher and viewer of Miss South Africa the way that I was, then you would know that Onalenna has been through some pretty hectic, traumatic, vile, disgusting, horrific things with men in her life, okay? And she has held quite a negative opinion of men throughout her Crown Chasers journey, and she said some pretty off-the-cuff things, which even knowing her history, I don't necessarily agree with. But her mission statement was really good. It was strong and powerful, and she stood on business when it came to gender-based violence, but it was not unnecessarily hateful or snarky or cynical, and I really am proud of the way that Onalenna delivered that mission statement. Taahira messed up a little bit. She was talking about how she was going to educate people through education.
As a Miss South Africa, I would dedicate my reign to educate women and children through education.
Educate through education. What a novel concept. So obviously she was definitely trying to remember what she was trying to say, and that was obvious with the way that she delivered. Kirsten was sounding a bit like she was reading in the beginning, but overall not bad. Mia, guys, obviously just has my whole heart. I was close to literal tears during her mission statement, which of course is all about inclusion. Mia obviously is deaf, and so inclusion is so apt for her, and it's clear that she's very passionate about this. Ontshiametse is definitely a strong speaker. Her thing was all about anti-crime. She's definitely a woman who can speak very well to audiences. Layla's thing is all about help for single mothers. I don't know, maybe it's just because I don't have any children yet. It didn't really land for me. But then again, I'm not deaf either, and Mia's thing really landed for me. Nompumelelo came. She didn't even blink when a second mic was awkwardly shoved in her face. Queen behavior, honestly. She was still giving Miss South Africa at this point. So overall, for the mission statements, my favorites ended up being Ona, Mia, and Nompumelelo. And another thing that I was so happy about for Miss South Africa, which is something that I spoke about throughout my coverage of Miss Supranational this year, is that they actually tributed Brioni, and they especially focused very hard on her Miss Supranational journey. And I think that had Miss Universe been present, they maybe wouldn't have focused so much on Brioni's journey at Miss Supranational. But because Miss Universe weren't present for tech, they could talk about Brioni's journey in full glory, because let's be honest, Brioni actually achieved just a little bit more at Miss Supranational than she did at Miss Universe. And I'm just so proud and so happy that Brioni actually also got her moment in the sun being tributed by Miss South Africa, because let's be real, she was our international ambassador for the year of 2023 and at Miss Supranational 2024, obviously. For the top 5, we had Mia, who I was so happy about, Onalenna, Nompumelelo, Ontshiametse, and Layla, which is 4 out of 5 of my predicted top 5. Guys, sometimes I even amaze myself.
All I'm gonna say is,
Yo.
I don't see any crumbs once again. She left no crumbs. Standard procedure.
I noticed also this year that because it's 2024 and South Africa gained democracy in 1994, when, you know, everybody got the right to vote regardless of race. They really hammered that home and celebrated that at this edition of Miss South Africa, which is something I didn't even think about, but in retrospect is very special, and I'm so glad that they did that. I just once again have to reiterate how amazing was Natasha. How amazing was the inclusion of Natasha. I'm just so glad that Natasha has really come into her own since 2020, guys. So when it came to gown, we had this lovely performer perform this beautiful gown song, but as they were lifting that fabric on stage, guys, look at the edges. It was cut so badly. It's literally giving me being impatient cutting fabric. It turns out like this. It turns out like this. But anyway, that's small stuff. We have to focus on the performances, starting with Mia. Honestly, I was pretty surprised that they had the girls coming out this huge flight of stairs, but with like 2 men, like 2 guys. I don't mind guys, I don't mind men. It's just that I would have preferred to see the women descending the stairs alone. Like, are they not capable of descending some stairs in heels? I don't know. Because they descended some of the stairs alone, but they had these 2 guys. I don't know, I just feel like that's a choice. That's a choice that I would not have made, but it's a choice. For Onalenna especially, I bet she was absolutely thrilled to be guided down those stairs by 2 beings whom she could have birthed. If you know, you know.
I hate being compared to a man. We cannot compare me to a being that I birthed.
Nompumelelo was just stunning in her gown. I feel like it really suited her. When it came time for Ontshiametse to also descend the stairs with these two gentlemen, I thought that maybe, right, one gentleman would have done the job, and that one gentleman could have been our reigning Mr. Supranational, because we know he was at Miss Supranational. When I say Miss Supranational, I meant Miss South Africa. So he was there, which is something that I also spoke about when he won Mr. Supranational. They could have utilized him for this. I know Mr. Supranational South Africa is not affiliated with Miss South Africa like that, but I feel like it could have been fun. You know, since Miss Universe weren't there, they weren't there. What are they gonna say? Just let the man do the thing. Just let him. Two guys weren't necessary. Anyway, Layla's face doesn't quit. That face card, it does not decline. So, I don't know, man. This year's evening gown competition just felt so special. I'm not even gonna complain about the lack of color on stage, because seeing all 5 of them lined up at the end of it all, it felt like I died and entered heaven, because there were these 5 literal angels waiting. I don't know, it just felt very, very special, the evening gown competition for Miss South Africa this year. And honestly, even for gown, I didn't have any favorites. They were all special and gorgeous in their own way. We need to talk about Vanessa Carrera. We need to talk about Vanessa Carrera, okay? This woman was Miss South Africa in like way back. Like, is it 20 plus years? She looks 27 or 28. She looks 20. This woman needs to drop her skincare routine or her doctor's phone number. I do not care in which order. It's just, how does she look that age? She's gorgeous. And also, while we're on the topic of praise, one thing about Miss South Africa that I love, okay, they are respectful of our time. They are respectful of our time. There was not a moment wasted. By the 2-hour mark, we were already into top 5. So thank you so very much, Miss South Africa. There was no dull moment. There was no unnecessary interviews. There was no extended periods of advertisements. I feel like everything that Miss South Africa does in terms of production is usually very well done, including the timing and pacing of everything. You rarely feel bored watching Miss South Africa. And I say this as a veteran pageant follower and viewer. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for that. One of our former Miss Universes from South Africa was also there, obviously, Margaret Gardner, who was Miss Universe 1978. 78, which is like how many years ago? The woman is 64 years old. Again, doctor's phone number, skincare routine. Please stop gatekeeping. Vanessa and Margaret, please help us out. As we were speaking to the judges for a bit, I got to thinking, do you guys think it's fair that the Crown Chasers judges also became finals judges? Because somewhere in my mind, I feel like finals should be a do-over. You know, once you get to finals, you have to deal with fresh people who have fresh perspectives on you. And, you know, some of these judges already had first impressions of these women going into tonight. Do you guys think that's fair? Do you guys think that's ideal for the judges to already know the girls so intimately? Or do you think that finals calls for a fresh, entirely fresh set of judges? So we finally got to top 5 Q&A, and Mia's question, in my opinion, was actually a bit silly, I'm not gonna lie, because it started off with, you know, as Miss South Africa, you gain a lot more followers. So what would you do? This is a real question, guys. What would you do to ensure that your first post as Miss South Africa goes viral? Priorities, but okay. And Mia, honestly, she did the best. She did the best she could with the question that she received. So I'm very proud of Mia. For Onalenna, she got a question about whether or not technology has brought us closer together or driven us farther apart. And I do definitely feel like Onalenna was referencing the situation with Chidimma when she was talking about how during the past few weeks she saw how technology can, you know, basically rip people apart. And she concluded with that South Africans should stand together for what is right. Now, I don't know what she means by what is right. If indeed she was referring to the Chidimma situation, like, what exactly did she mean by that answer? I don't know. Was she defending Chidimma? Or was she saying that, you know, if your mom was going to commit identity theft in 2001 when you were a little infant, you got what you deserved by not participating this evening. I don't know. Those are the vibes that I got. Don't come for me. Listen. It's late. I will not be held responsible for anything I say after 9 p.m. Thank you very much. Nompumelelo was asked, I feel like a very standard pageant question nowadays about empowerment. What does it mean to you? How will you implement it? And honestly, Nompumelelo is just a great question answerer. Again, it's after 9 p.m. She just knows how to deliver a good answer. That's what I love about Nompumelelo. Like, everything about her is just strong 9s and 10s. Nompumelelo is rarely mediocre at anything. Ontshiametse was asked a good question, which is what has she learned about herself over the Miss SA journey that she's been through, which would help her to be a good Miss A. And honestly, Ontshiametse ate this answer. She did so good. She was talking about how it takes sensitivity to be a good Miss South Africa. And honestly, I don't think if you're not one of the people who religiously watched Crown Chasers, then you wouldn't really know why this answer is so good. But I do feel like after watching the entirety of Crown Chasers, it was those talk your wits, guys. Those talk your wits. The very segments of Crown Chasers that I thought were so useless in the beginning, they're the ones who actually ended up giving me the most insight into these women. And so for her to talk about, you know, sensitivity and how that's necessary to be a Miss South Africa, I was sitting there like, you know what? Yes, I agree. Layla was asked about her identity and how it will inspire others, and she also gave a very international level answer to this question. And really, when it came to Q&A, these women were all great. They were all great in their own way, and honestly, this is what South African pageant women are known for. Like, we are speakers. That is our thing. When we go international, you always expect, if they are representing the Miss South Africa organization, you know they are going to be great speakers. And so this top 5 really just proved it. They were all amazing. It was very difficult for me to choose just one favorite, but still, I think after everything, I still think that Ontshiametse was one of the ones who really ate this top 5. But despite the fact that I felt like Ontshiametse did amazing, the top 3 ended up being Onalenna, Mia, and Nompumelelo. At this point, my mind was blown, because this is my top 3. This was my predicted top 3. Like, how did I even do that? So for the top 3 Q&A, you guys know the deal. The question is submitted by a fan. 2 of the girls are wearing headphones. Only one of the girls hears the question and then they answer. And the question was submitted by a fan, and it was, what are some of the changes that you would implement to South Africa as a nation? Which I think is an interesting question, again touching on their advocacies, on their mission. And Onalenna, guys, she dropped the ball so hard. She started off nervous, and I was like, okay, she started off nervous, but she can still pick up pace. She never ended up picking up. She never ended up going where I was hoping that she was going. At the end of the day, shame. I just feel bad for her. I really just do feel bad for her.
It is not a... okay, sorry. The one thing that I would change is that... Oh, thank you.
Mia answered the question. She answered beautifully. Obviously, Mia answers from the heart a lot, so she really pulled on my heartstrings talking about her mission. She really knows what her mission is, and I love that about Mia. Nompumelelo came. She called out the government. You know, I feel like I was being rallied. I was like, okay, where's my gun? Where's my pitchfork? Are we storming the president's house at dawn? What are we doing? She was really adamant about calling out the government in a certain way, you know. if you promise something, keep your promise. You know, we learned this in grade 1. So yes, Mia touched my heart. Nompumelelo made me feel so powerful and empowered and like just ready to eat the politicians and the rich, you know what I mean? And Ona just, oh, she made me want to crawl under my couch and die. I felt so bad for her because really she's been performing amazingly throughout. And then at the last moment, the most crucial minute, oh, her speech let her down. Oh, felt so bad for her. Natasha came out, her final gown was so pretty. I love how we went through her entire journey with Miss South Africa. She mixed some Afrikaans into her speech. She utilized the gentleman for removing that attachable thing. And really just by the end of it all, the music, oh, cutting away from the video onto the stage, the people screaming, it was so emotional. Someone was cutting onions in my living room, no joke. I'm so proud of Natasha and how far she has come since the beginning. So obviously for top 2, I think at this point Onalenna sort of realized that she probably wasn't making it, and so I did feel bad for her. My top 2 were obviously Nompumelelo and Mia, and that's who ended up being the top 2. Yeah, I was just on a roll at Miss South Africa this year. And honestly, I didn't know. Whoever got picked, I would have been so happy. But it actually ended up being Mia, which I'm so happy with that. I'm so happy with that. She definitely deserves it. Nompumelelo would have equally deserved it. So whoever it was, I was going to be happy. And I'm so happy for Mia that she won Miss South Africa. She's definitely going to make a difference. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. Let me know what you guys think about the show, about Miss Universe not attending, everything that we spoke about in this video. It is pretty late. I'm probably going to be up until 3 editing this. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Bye.